Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Seth Gillihan, and this is my daughter, Ada Gillihan, and we are co-authors of the CBT Deck for kids and teens, which we're going to be talking about together today. So we've each prepared some questions. We're going to be, I guess, kind of interviewing each other and look forward to sharing with you some of the practices from this deck and kind of some of our experience of what it was like to write it. So, Ada, I will we'll go youngest to oldest. So you can start, and then we'll go clockwise.
Okay, what inspired you to make a kid's version of the original CBT deck?
Well, I mean, some of it was just that, and this was during kind of early on in the pandemic, and there were these reports coming out of just incredible numbers of young people who were dealing with overwhelming stress and anxiety and mood problems, um, and it was harder than ever to get help for those kinds of things because you couldn't see people in person, and therapists like me were just um, overwhelmed with demand for people who needed help. So I wanted to provide a resource in that way. And also, I knew, from your own experience that you had used practices like these and found them helpful. And so I thought it'd be good to adapt it for younger people. Um, so I guess, I mean, speaking of that, and I know you've had your own experiences with anxiety, and thank God those have gotten so much better. This was around second grade, so you always loved school or excited to go to school, and then almost overnight, it seemed like at the beginning of second grade, things changed so much, and you were having these panic attacks.
Mhm.
One of them that stands out was that one in New York City. Remember, we were there for your uncle's graduation from
Oh,
medical
yeah.
school, I think. And so, can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like, what that felt like for you?
Yeah, I remember it was really hard to breathe and hard to swallow too. And um, I felt kind of faint and like weak. And I thought I was dying. But I remember you carried me and you sang to me, and I started feeling a lot better.
Yeah, I remember that too. I remember, yeah, you were so your body was so hot, you were so pale, and I remember you just draped over my shoulders. We walked through the streets, I guess, on our way to dinner. Um, uh, so difficult, I'm sure, as other parents know, wanting to help your child, but not really feeling like you can take this away for them. Um, so so yeah, that was a difficult time, huh? I mean,
Yeah.
probably in ways that I can't even really know. I mean, because I would experience it like when you're having a hard time going to school or when you were in the middle of a panic attack. But I know it seems like it was something that was just going on pretty much. I mean, just all the time for you.
Yeah. What's one of your experiences with anxiety?
You know, I mean, I've had plenty of experiences with anxiety. I think it's actually part of what helps me in working with people who are dealing with anxiety, is having some of those experiences myself. Like I've had panic attacks, and other uh, experiences where it's just, when there's something that you care about and the outcome is unknown. It's easy to feel a lot of anxiety about that. So one that stands out, I mean, especially talking to you, is the night you were born. So uh, we're in the delivery room, and I just had so much anxiety about like how's this going to turn out, because you don't know. I mean, it's sort of. I mean, you're so close, to having and holding your baby, but it's a kind of a somewhat perilous journey. Um, and so every time, I just found myself just like, there's a heart monitor where you can hear the baby's heartbeat. And so I was just like tracking that constantly. Like, is it slowing down? Is it okay? Like when there'd be a contraction and your heartbeat would slow down, and I would feel like my heartbeat would speed up, and then it would come back down again. I feel like, "Phew, okay." And I had started taking yoga again around this time. And I remember my teacher, Paula, saying, the breath is always available to you as a place you can come back and find like a sense of peace in yourself. And because I already knew, um, sorry, I've got something popping up here that shouldn't be. All right. So I already knew, we were having a daughter. We were planning to name her Ada, but but I was really anxious about like what was going to happen with all these unknowns, before you were born. And so I remembered that the breath can always bring us back to the moment, and just coming back into the moment does a lot to relieve anxiety, because my anxiety was about what's going to happen next. But right then things were okay, like your heart was beating, there was no crisis. And so I remember just focusing on my breath, coming back to the present, and then I could actually like be more present for mommy, because obviously she had the harder job in the room. And thankfully things turned out great. It wasn't that long of a delivery. You came out, you were healthy, you were crying, had a good APGAR score. That's the score you get when you're first born to just note how healthy the newborn is. So that that has always stuck with me, of how simple and effective it can be just to come back to our breathing.
Yeah.
So let's see. My next question for you is, you had um, the CBT deck, the original one that I got, that was intended, mostly for people who are older than you. I didn't realize it at the time, but you kept the copy that I'd gotten, um, like the sample copy they send to make sure everything is right. And I didn't realize you were using one of the cards each day. So I wanted to ask, what made you try out that CBT deck on your own?
Well, I was having a lot of anxiety at the time, and um, I kind of just wanted to try out anything that would help, and
Hmm.
that did end up helping. Um,
Yeah.
why did you decide to invite me to help you write the CBT deck for kids and teens?
Well, I mean, your experience with anxiety, I think, had a lot to do with it. Just knowing that you had used the CBT deck before, you'd found it helpful. Um, and when I had thought about, actually, like a long time before I asked you to write it, I had this idea, like if I ever adapt this for kids, it seems like it would make a lot of sense to work on it with Ada, because of your own experiences, and because I feel like you would have that um, sort of insiders knowledge, like what it's like, and what can be helpful. And of course, I think you're smart, and good with words, and I thought it'd be fun to work with you, and also just really meaningful, which it was, to create this thing with you. Um, and so I mentioned the idea to my agent Giles. He loved it. He thought it was a great idea to write the deck, and to have you as a co-author. So then I brought it to my publisher, Fessy, who's sponsoring this event, and Carson there was excited about it. So we went ahead with it, and I think it was just a really fun experience, and nice of you to do it, because this was in the middle of online learning with the first year of the pandemic. And so you'd have your classes, and then usually it was in your breaks. You have a little break between classes, and say, can you take a half hour? We'll write a few of the practices, and you were great at taking time to do that. Maybe we can go back to your own experiences with the CBT deck when you were really in the thick of your anxiety, and I wonder what was helpful about it for you.
Well, like every morning when I woke up and I'd read a card, it was almost like you were there next to me and saying the things to me, which
Mhm.
helped.
I know you're not trying to make me cry, but it definitely brings tears to my eyes, and I'm glad that felt like a helpful experience to have one of your parents there talking to you. And I remember when you told me it was helpful, I felt like, oh my goodness, like if I had known this was going to be helpful to you, I would have written it just for you. I mean, without even the idea of sharing it with other people. Um, that was such a meaningful thing to me. Um, Yes, is it your turn?
Yeah. What do you think one of your favorite cards is?
Well, I've got one right here. This is so the cards, they have each one has a different there are three types of backs. This one is called B. There are also think and act cards. Can I see your card there? So the think cards, these are one about training your mind so your thoughts work for you, because our minds can so often work against us. There are also act cards. So those are about uh, doing certain behaviors that help us to move toward our goals, decrease anxiety, those kinds of things. And then the B cards, these are about mindfulness practices. So being present and kind of opening to our experience and really increasing our awareness of what's happening. So that's what this card is about. It's really about awareness, because we often, I know for myself, especially when I'm going through difficult times, it's easy for me to lose sight of all the things that are right in my life and just kind of focus on all like the 2% or the 5% of problems, and forget about like 95% of my life that's pretty good. So I'll walk you through this now. Ada, if you want to follow along, feel free to. This is called Breathe and Give Thanks. So sit comfortably in a quiet place. Sorry, this isn't exactly quiet. And feel your breath as you breathe in and out. With each breath, think of one good thing in your life, your friends, your family, your house, your food, or your pet. It doesn't say this, but it could be your pet food too. That's also important. Your guinea pigs appreciate that. You can include everyday gifts like the air that keeps you alive. You might also try this as you fall asleep at night. So you can see these are just really simple practices. I mean, there's really pretty much nothing more basic than breathing, but that kind of connection, I think, can help us to let go of where our minds tend to go into these ruts about like, there's this problem and I don't like this, and why me, and realize all the good. Um, I often use this like when I have had trouble sleeping at night. Try to go through these things instead of thinking like, oh, I'm going to be a wreck tomorrow. I hate this. Why can't I sleep? All right. Well, I was really glad that you agreed to write this deck with me, and also you agreed to have this conversation in front of an audience. So I wonder what made you excited to work on this deck with me, because it didn't seem like a half-hearted like okay, if you want me to. It seemed more like, yes, I'd love to.
Well, when I was in second and third grade, I had a lot of anxiety, and um,
Sorry if my handkerchief is distracting.
and I really just like wanted to help other people who might be experiencing what I had experienced.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that that cycle. It seems like it's so common. I sort of mentioned it, in part for myself, that I feel like the one of the best things we can do in life is really to take the sort of the kind of garbage, the scraps that come into our lives, and in a way, sort of turn them into compost that then get used in a way that can be helpful to other people. I think that's really the best we can do, and I think it's such a lovely thing that you've done this through this work at such a young age.
Okay, how did you come up with ideas for all like 58 cards?
Yeah, so these 58, a lot of them were based on the original CBT deck, which was 101 practices. And I remember for that one, I just I work best with pen and paper for coming up with ideas. I remember just writing down like number one, like here's an idea for a practice, here's an idea. A lot of them were ones that are sort of known for they're kind of known practices, like a basic breath meditation is something that people are, it's like a well-established practice. Other ones were kind of adaptations of things that I had tried, like finding that, if I tried to adjust my thinking first thing in the morning, that often seemed more helpful than kind of waiting till the day sort of took off on its own, and then I was trying to catch up. So really, it was just kind of brainstorming things that I already knew about, things I was noticing that I was using myself, kind of spontaneously, and then just kind of keeping my mind open and capturing the ideas as they happened. And then, you and I started from that and picked out, went together, sitting on the couch together, going through like, which of these seem like they would be a good fit for things that kids might find helpful. And then from that original list, then going through and really trying to make the language and the concepts much more approachable. I mean, another reason that I wanted wanted your help is that I knew there are things I would say that just um, wouldn't be the way the kids would say it.
Like I know the kid language.
The kid language, exactly. Yeah, the kind of different dialect. So I would say something and you'd be like, yeah, you're very diplomatic. You'd say like, I don't know if people my age really use that word, or like that's not really an expression that we're familiar with. So that was super helpful. I didn't say these things like when your parents say things like cool, and they think they're like using the lingo, and you're like, no, that's what kids said when you were 11. Um, all right. Let's see. Is it up to mine now?
Mm-hmm.
So, last question I have for you. What's one of your favorite cards?
Okay. This is a card from the part of the deck called What If.
Oh yeah, I forgot we hadn't shown your card yet. I totally ruined it.
When we're worried, anxiety likes to ask us a bunch of what if questions. What if I forget my homework? What if my parent gets sick? You can turn things around by asking different questions. What if my teacher loves my project? What if my friends really care about me? What if I help our team win the game? What if tomorrow's an amazing day? See what it's like to ask good what ifs.
Love it. Yeah, I love what they did with this card. How they made it. It's kind of like a text exchange. So we're sort of flipping the script and asking opposite types of questions. What do you find helpful about that?
Well, I feel like I can use this strategy a lot in my life because usually whenever there's something new, um, I always get like really worried about it and like ask myself, what if this turns out like terribly? But then I find it's easier to just switch my mind and say, like, what if this goes really well? Because when I was in fourth grade, I started off the year online. So when I was going back into school, I was really nervous and I was like, what if I don't make any friends? What if it goes really badly? But then I kind of like got a positive attitude and I made a lot of friends.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think I got some in my eye again. Yeah, your mom and I were so proud of you that you did that, and frankly, a little bit shocked because I mean, I hope you don't mind my saying, but for so much of second and third grade, you were begging to be homeschooled, and then when fourth grade, I mean, end of third grade, and then end of fourth grade. It was end of third grade. Was that when you went online?
Yeah.
That's right. Gosh, it's hard to keep track of the years, but we thought like this will be Ada's dream like finally come true, and then you're online for the first few months, and then you had the option of going back, but you could have stayed online like some of your friends did, and you had no. I mean, you did have some anxiety about it, but you had no hesitation. Like I'm nervous and I'm going to do it. If you don't mind my saying, that was the same approach that you used for this interview, right? This is a new experience. I mean, first time for me having an interview with my daughter, but first time for you, doing this kind of thing, and same kind of approach where like, yes, I'm anxious and I'm going to do it anyway, and that really, I think, I mean, for anyone, I think to have that kind of willingness it just sort of makes you unstoppable. Like if you're willing to be anxious and do it anyway, then there's pretty much nothing that can hold you back. Because it's not like, well, I'll do it unless I'm anxious. It's like I'm going to do it, and I did see that switch from like what if to as I started to prepare, I think you started to see the excitement and this is that there's like it's probably going to go well. and it might even be fun. So it's certainly been a fun and enjoyable experience for me. That's the end of the questions that we prepared for each other, but we would love to answer some questions. I think I saw some popping up before. Okay, here they are. Um, and what would you tell a friend? Oh, Ada, here you go. The first part was blocked. What would you tell a friend who's experiencing anxiety? And is there a favorite exercise you teach them? Do you feel all right answering that?
Um, well, it's sort of like similar to a card we wrote that was like face the fear of school. How you kind of just have to take everything one step at a time, and like you only really need to focus on the next thing that you need to do.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that would probably be mine too. I think that's again, these simple ideas that can help us to move through pretty much any challenge. Just break it down, take it one step at a time. You can always take that next step if you make it small enough. Um, and I know I think you've shared that with even with your sister at times, right? Like you can do this, like just um, start to approach it, face that fear, and then it usually shrinks. All right, and question for me. Was there anything about Ada's insider knowledge that surprised you? And what did you learn from working together? Um, yeah, it's a good question. Let me think about that for a second. I mean, I think the main thing I was surprised by was just your kind of the really helpful nuances that you had, like where we'd be talking about a practice, and I feel like we had a nice mind meld. We were doing it. We both have a sense of like it's kind of in the right direction, but it's not quite there. And then so many times you would say like, well, what if we started like this, like a different, just like a different approach? Because I'd be maybe locked into like trying to get the wording to work out a certain way, and then we just flip it around. Uh, and I mean, I know you're a good writer. I know you're good with words. But I think that was, um, I mean, not it wasn't like a total surprise because it wasn't like I thought that you were going to struggle with this, but just many times just having that feeling of like, yes, when something clicks, like the French call it like a mot juste. It's like just exactly the right word. Felt like that. And then what did you learn from working together? Um, I mean, you can, if you have anything you want to add that you learned working together, feel free to share it. Um, but but I would just say, I mean, the main thing that it reinforced for me is that it's a lot of fun to work together, and it's really enjoyable to feel that shared sense of mission. Like it's something we both care about. And again, using our own challenges, there's this sort of like it's like an alchemy process. I don't know if you know that from your books you've read, alchemy, but it's like turning lead into gold. But in this case, turning a difficult experience into something helpful for others. So I think that's all the questions that we have. Anything that you want to add before we say goodbye?
Um, well, I felt like with this deck, felt kind of like more motivated to use it because with the other ones, it was more like I like this one because I helped write it, so it feels like I kind of have more of a connection to it.
Yes, which I can definitely understand. Yeah, being part of that creative process. And one thing I love is that they included some of the images actually look a little bit like Ada, right? Uh, which was a nice touch. So that's it for us. Thank you very much for joining us. Ada, thank you for writing this with me. Thanks for agreeing to do this. Um, this is happening very close to the end of 2021. So I wish all of you a lovely new year and peace and joy and lots of love in 2022.